So have you ever heard of the Holocaust?
No.
You have no idea what the Holocaust is?
No.
What is the Holocaust?
It's an act of hatred. It's when Adolf Hitler imprisoned millions of Jews just because they weren't the same as him.
Basically, a lot of Jewish people, homosexual people, not Aryan people were taken into camps and they were tortured because someone thought that they weren't human enough.
Mass murder, where a group called the Nazis had a philosophy, a toxic philosophy of blonde hair, blue eyes, and that's what everyone should be.
When I hear the Holocaust, it's like, it kind of like kills my mood, but like, I know like different things about like the Holocaust, but I never specifically heard from someone that has been from the Holocaust or has experienced through it, so my mind is kind of confused when I hear the Holocaust.
The Nazis killed a lot of Jews, like 6 million of them in the 1940s. And yeah, it was Nazis and it wasn't the Germans versus the Jews, basically. Germans killed a lot of Jews. It was, yeah, about 6 million of them. It was a lot.
It was a time where Jewish people were oppressed and they were discriminated and just killed for no reason.
A man who should not have been in power was put into power by instilling fear into people and blaming a specific set of people for the problems that he was made to endure.
It's something that everyone should remember, because if we don't remember it and put it in our brains, it's bound for history to repeat itself. And we can never let that happen again.
What did your parents and teachers tell you about the Holocaust?
My mom never really talked about the Holocaust, but my teachers told us a little bit, and they took us on a field trip to actually meet somebody who's been through the Holocaust. I met 2 people who's been through the Holocaust.
My parents aren't really informed about the Holocaust. I've asked them multiple times about if they know anything, and they didn't really know anything about it.
My first time learning about the Holocaust was from my brother. He was learning it in school, but I never personally ever learned about the Holocaust in school. You know, they never taught it. You know, it might have been something like simple like, oh, Holocaust, they killed Jews, the end, you know, closed textbook. But like they never really went into depth about how they did it or why they did it or when they did it, honestly.
I wasn't really like that informed about the concentration camps until I got to middle school, and then I saw like the pictures. And then in high school, none of my teachers have really talked about it. Maybe my teacher from last year spoke about it, but that was it.
First year I came here, I just see some random teacher who says, sign up for the Holocaust Club. And I'm looking at my mom like, what was the Holocaust? I was actually quite excited because I had never known what it was.
It was like, I think eighth grade, I think, was the first time I heard about it, or 7th grade. But I feel like they think that you've heard about it before, earlier in your previous years. So they like do like a brief understanding about it.
I don't think me and my parents ever talked about the Holocaust.
I really wasn't told anything about the Holocaust until maybe middle school. I think people don't like to talk about it just because of the sense of how horrible it is.
Who are the Jews?
Who are the Jews?
Who are the Jews?
Who are the Jews?
The Jewish people were... I don't really know how to answer this one.
The Jewish people are basically just like any other people, except they believe in their religion.
They're followers of the religion of Judaism.
They just believe in different things. There's nothing that separates us humans.
I believe that they were chosen to be persecuted only because the man who began the process thought that they would be an easy target. He simply thought that he could use stereotypes to enlist fear into the people that would have been able to give him the power to do such horrible things.
They died in a war. There are bad people that killed like United States people that didn't like us. People that are like terrorists. Terrorists?
Terrorists?
Yeah.
Who taught you that?
History. They said it in history.
So tell me, what was the experience that you took away from the March of the Living?
It was just an honor being there, and thank you for sending me. Like, I really appreciate it. I would never have realized what happened during the Holocaust if I didn't go, so thank you for that.
We do this all the time because we want as many kids to learn about the Holocaust, and there's no place like being there actually and having a feel of it. When I put foot on that spot where I remembered I was unloaded, I started to cry like a baby. I couldn't control myself because I remembered holding on to my little brother and my sister, and they were screaming, women and children to the right and man to the left. We were just being pulled apart, never to see each other again. And I didn't know where they were going, but later on I found out they went to the gas chambers. And I couldn't believe that these ashes that I was walking on were my brother, my sister. I couldn't believe that. I feel every year the same way. I want to get as many youngsters as you, because you are the future, to have the same feeling. And I can't imagine that you would have the same feeling, because obviously it's sad, but it doesn't touch directly.
I was bawling my eyes out, I'm gonna be honest. I was crying when I was in there, along with everyone else that I was with.
Everyone else was probably doing the same thing.
Yeah, because we were all feeling that emotion that, wow, this is where people died. This is where families were separated forever. It's just really hard to take that in one moment.
I found out that very few schools are really teaching about the Holocaust, and that affected me very much. Why do you think there is such a growing ignorance?
I just think people aren't being taught the right things. So in school, I've been taught it a little bit, like 1 year out of my 4 years, but I feel like they should go in depth more to where people know exactly what happened and why that happened, and that something like that should never happen again.
What will happen when the survivors will no longer be with us?
When the survivors are no longer with us.
When the Holocaust survivors are no longer here.
When the survivors will no longer be with us.
It's going to be hard for people to have a knowledge of what actually happened, and it's kind of like the people who have learned about it, their job to teach the younger generations.
It's not going to be taught in schools anymore, or if it is, it's going to be like very scarce or like kind of so simple, like, oh, they didn't agree with what the Jews did, so they wanted to kill them. No, they killed them for no reason.
It'll change because there's no longer first-hand accounts. There's no longer someone that has been there, and stories tend to become skewed when there are no longer first-hand accounts. But I feel like because it was such a big part of history, that it will be remembered.
Since it's best to hear from the person, from the experience, I feel like people won't get that anymore, and they won't understand as well as how they went through.
Remember their stories and what they've been through, because that's not something you can just forget. You can't just forget about it.
I hope that it gets retold because it was such a tragic story, and I hope that in history class it is talked about.
How can you keep the memory of the Holocaust alive?
Hopeful that my generation and generations above me that have learned about it will teach the younger generations and really show them this is what happened and it was a real thing.
Spread awareness to future generations. I could teach my children better values.
If I have kids, I'm gonna tell my kids about it and keep them awoke in this generation,
If I ever have kids, I'm obviously gonna tell them about this, and I hope they'll tell their kids and they'll tell their kids.
How does history shape our future?
It shows, us that things like this can happen and that it's very probable, to have mass murders and it be justified, and that there are still people like in this world today who still consider themselves a Nazi and who still believe in this philosophy.
It shapes the future because a lot of people did lose their lives in such a tragic way, and I feel like we as a society need to work together so that never happens again. To this day, it still affects many people.
As a result, we try to do our best to have it never happen again.
Well, the saying is never forget. And if we forget this ever happened, it's gonna happen again. I mean, it's just the human nature to repeat itself. So it's important we learn that this happened.
Do you and your friends talk about intolerance and hate?
Talk about it a lot, actually. We talk about how racism and hate and all this is still alive till this day, and what changes can be made and how can we change, make a difference, make noise,
We talk about the things that could have been done differently and that we would have done differently and that we want to do to make things better.
Yes and no, because we hate a lot of things. Well, not necessarily hate because it's a big word, but I feel like we talk about our dislike about certain subjects, movies, TV shows, people, and I feel like hate is used every day.
I think we just talk about how this world is not how we want it to be. We were hoping for a better future, but we're not exactly sure how we can do that.
It's really messed up to hate and be racist because everybody is the same.
How do you teach events that defy knowledge, experiences that go beyond imagination? How do you tell children, big and small, that society could lose its mind and start murdering its own soul and its own future? How do you unveil horrors without offering at the same time some measure of hope? Hope in what? In whom? In progress, in science, in literature, and God. That's what Elie Wiesel said. And I feel that our strength is in offering hope. That even though humanity has been able to tolerate these horrible events, that with enough education, with enough understanding, with enough compassion for each other, we'll be able to go beyond that and go to a place where peace and understanding is something we can take for granted.